the last 17 or so years. Been an engineer, product manager the last few years. Been a fractional product leader across a bunch of start companies and small businesses, all working on artificial intelligence applications and trying to do so with ethics in mind. And that's given me a lot of chance to explore the ethics of AI and a lot of other adjacencies like privacy, data security, stuff like that. So happy to be here. This is my first time at Nite, so forgive me. I found out I was following a talk called The History of Jetpacks, and I realized I need to amp up my game a little bit, make sure I choose something really exciting, compelling, engaging for you all.
Murder! We want murder!
I'll get there, but to start, I wanted to make sure you all are aware, we're going to be getting really engaging talking about privacy policies in terms of service documents, and my personal favorite, ULEZ.
I've seen murder most foul there.
Yeah, so I'm sensing some skepticism somewhere over here, somewhere out there. But most of you, the 90%, I guess, are totally enthralled already. But for the skeptics there, I will say, who are maybe questioning your life choices, this is all part of the talk. If you are questioning your life choices right now, like, why didn't I exit during the break? That's it. That's the mindset. I want you to be thinking about the choices you're making. And that's what this country is all about, right? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? American dream, right? So the whole notion that, you work hard and, earn a little bit of money, get some financial stability, you have affordable access to food, shelter, healthcare, education, all that stuff. And if you want a big blue truck and you're willing to work hard to get it, you can have a big blue truck. And if you want a big blue house, you can have that too. If you want a rocket belt, we already heard about that. So I think the key here is, as long as you're willing to engage, within the construct of the social contract, you're not going to murder or steal, then for the most part, it's a you do you kind of society. So, right, we know it's a little more complicated than that. And I'm not going to talk about all of the complexities of that statement I just made. There's several talks baked in there that I've already thought about. Maybe I'll come back and give those later. But the main complexity I want to talk about is our roles in the economy and as buyers and sellers in it. We specialize. There's a lot of specialists here at Nite. That's kind of the vibe, right? You dive deep into particular topics, you develop expertise, and then you can monetize that expertise with other experts who have expertise in different areas, right? And that's sort of how an advanced economy works. We all have specialized skills that we then exchange for other services and goods that we can use to live out our lives, right? And this is developed over a long, long period of time. Plumbing, electricity, those kinds of things, eventually automobiles, computers, and now mobile phones. And some smart guy somewhere in San Francisco or someplace said something like, software is eating the world. I didn't even bother to quote that. But I think we all kind of, we know this is true. We added this software to our lives to try and make things easier, right? You've got your calendar app, you've got your email right in your pocket. You can get a ride home right from your phone. You can get a hot meal delivered to your home. You can get a hot meal delivered to your car that you can eat on the way home. But kind of the drill, right? You sit down at your computer, you install some software, you click through, you make sure you put it in the right place, and you're always asked kind of the same question. You know what I'm getting at. So software makes life easier, makes life simpler, sort of, right? You always come to that place where you're asked, do you accept the terms of this agreement? Okay. So, look, I read a lot of business books. I'm kind of a wannabe business guy. My favorite business book of all time is The Emperor's New Clothes. Have you ever heard of that? It's a great one, and I'm going to save the rest of that for a later talk as well. But this sort of myth, right? Like, we all participate in this notion that we are consenting to these things, this collective delusion we have about informed consent, right? I think it's important to understand something about how out of control this has gotten. So, the average American consumer has to agree to 200 to 300 of these kinds of agreements per person per year, and this group is way on the right side of that bell curve, I'm sure. This is all kinds of stuff, right? Like social media apps, any mobile app, software, desktop stuff. But there's also the good old-fashioned paper agreements, like when you sign a mortgage. And you know how that experience goes if you've ever bought a house, or you go to the title company and you sit down and there's a stack of paper that's like, half foot tall maybe, and you read every page of that thing, right? For the first 10% of the documents, and then you just start signing because you realize you're going to be there all day. And we all kind of know. So all kinds of things, loans, employment agreements, cookies, when you visit a website, right? And now that we have software in our hands, in our pockets all the time, and it's always updated from the cloud, that's great, because then they can update those agreements all the time. So this has kind of gotten a little out of hand, right? And the reality is, okay, you got me, like most people don't read all this stuff. 91% of consumers don't read the agreements before they accept them. True. And it's even worse for young people. 97% of young people don't read these agreements. And both of these numbers are lies. It's a lot less than that. And young people just have less shame than older people. That's the truth. So, look. Here's the deal. You're talking about 1 to 2 million pages, words, 5,000 plus pages of documents. You're talking about 2 to 3 work weeks for you to just do the reading at an average reading pace. Again, this group probably, of course, on some other side of the bell curve. After high school education, another 7+ years of additional education to get to the point where you could actually comprehend. And let me know if you can find that at such a steal of less than $250,000 these days. So, right, doing all this stuff, and at the end of the day, we can invest all this time and money, but can you even negotiate the terms anyways? No. I mean, some, yeah, there's definitely some you can negotiate, but most of them, you kind of just have to suck it up and push accept, right? That's how we kind of have to exist in this world. And so it's no wonder people behave like this and they don't read the terms and conditions, because what difference does it make anyways? So you just accept the cookies, right? And it leaves you with the same experience Cookie Monster has, right? You accept the cookies and you still get no cookie. Right? So I'm here to say you don't have to live in shame. It's not just you. Nobody cares. Nobody's reading this stuff. You're all just clicking accept, except for that 3% of people with OCD, and thank God for them, because they tell us what the stuff says. Right? Now, maybe you think that's a problem, or maybe you're sitting there saying, okay, dude, so what? Who cares? Well, let me tell you about somebody who cares. Let me take you to an Irish pub and restaurant called Raglan Road. So, Raglan Road, they serve some food. Before this happened, they talk about how they served food that was friendly to those who had allergy sensitivities on their website. So, a doctor and her husband, and as the story goes, their mother-in-law, but I did not include that in the graphic here, went to Raglan Road to get some food. The doctor had a severe nut allergy, and she made the server aware of that allergy, and the server said, of course, we'll take the utmost care to make sure your food is nowhere near any allergens. That's what we do here at Raglan Road. So they had a great meal, and they went home, and pretty quickly after that, the doctor was having an allergic reaction. She used an EpiPen to try and calm that down. It wasn't working. They brought her to the hospital, and in a couple of hours, she was dead. Yeah, so this is America, right? We started with that. So the husband was advised to file a wrongful death lawsuit. This is what we do here. And as he did that, he filed the suit against Raglan Road and the company that they leased the restaurant from, which housed the business, Disney Springs. Disney. That Disney, yeah. Part of Disney Resort. Yeah, that's the one. Part of that Disney. Yes, that one and the same. They do a nice job of branding. It's really all the way through there until you get to the Irish pub. The Disney lawyers, with kind of realizing the husband's situation, said, well, let's remind him of the good times. Cheerful memory from back when the doctor was alive, and they were sitting on the couch together, gearing up to watch The Lion King. The Lion King, the one with the live actors, not the original animated one, the new one. You know which one I'm talking about? Yeah. You can stream it on Disney Plus after you accept their terms of service, which include an indemnity clause that ensures that you can never sue Disney Plus or any of the parent companies that it might be owned by, like that Disney. That Disney. Yes, that one. So, husband is feeling extra lonely now. But what happens in our society is we talk about this stuff when we hear about it, right? You know, it's on the news, and sure enough, things spread. We all say, you know what, that is really distasteful. And I'm happy to inform you that in this case, Disney did indeed decide that it would be more humane to settle out of court rather than in the court of public opinion. So here's the problem. When you have this kind of structure where no matter what you're doing, you go out to eat, you're doing business with a multinational conglomerate that you're making agreements with in a totally different context, you're really not able to make decisions in this kind of complex environment. This is just one example, right? So this complexity inhibits your autonomy to act in the economy as a buyer or a seller taking rational action. Now, there's also another problem, which is about values. So your values are all about, right, what kinds of beliefs you have, and how do you want to put those out in the world with how you spend your money and your time, right? I'm going to let Ted Danson, who's an actor in an NBC show called The Good Place, explain this in a more concise way. Have you all heard of The Good Place? Have you seen that show? Okay, so I don't have to set it up anymore. Do the research, right? Do the research.
I did my research.
So, this, lack of autonomy leads to this passivity of just clicking accept, and that passivity compromises your values, right? You're no longer taking actions that represent what you really believe. But that's not all. There's one more thing I want to mention, right? And I think you all know this. Like, a lot of software is free, right? And there's, like, one, I think, common cliche, right, that you've all heard about software to kind of amplify this point, which is Linux is only free if you don't value your time. All right, if that didn't land with this audience, won't work. Got it. Feedback taken. No, it's really this. When the product is free, you are the product. Right? And, like, that's fine. We all know how it works, right? It's not that big of a deal. Like, he just had, the way he does the smile is so smug. It's like, he's like, I can't, okay. So, look, here's the trouble. Without your values, you become a commodity in the economy. And that's a problem. When you're no longer a buyer or seller in the economy and living out your American dream by purchasing your own rocket belt, you're the product. And I'm a product person. I'll tell you what the role of the product is. The product is there to create value for the buyers and sellers that are exchanging it. Now, if you are the product, your role in the system is to have value extracted from you. Now, that can be okay. Like, after all, I can stay in contact with my friends from college, right? And we all love that. And you know what? That isn't so bad. That actually is valuable. And it's super valuable for a lot of you who maybe don't live in the same town and all these things. But the key that I want to enforce here is it implies that there's an important aspect of choice involved in that transaction. And so when things get complex and you start agreeing to use tools that are free without realizing what you're signing up for, and when so many interactions in the economy are like that, that you can't possibly know really what's going on in your own life at any given moment, or what commitments you've made or haven't made, or what values you're really putting out in the world with your actions, that's a problem. Now, like, if it's just everything's black and white, and you're making clear and obvious ethical choices, no big deal, right? If you are just selecting throw pillows after your divorce, not a big problem. Now, okay, so what? What are you going to do? Like, we all have to exist in this world, right? But let me ask you, what if you could make values-informed decisions even 1% more often? All right. Well, like, what are you going to do? I'm going to give you 3 transgressive actions for 2025 to just try out. Really transgressive. Like. So, first things first. How to boycott when you're the product. Some of you may have seen that there's been people boycotting different things for various reasons out in the news. And, then you'll find this debate about, like, well, boycotts really don't do much good because you just buy the stuff the day before and then it's just evens out. Or, that's not the important part. It's really about the message. Or, like, we're sending a message and, like, whether it has a true impact. Okay. None of that really matters when you're the product. When you're the product, you can take a different point of view. And you can say, well, if I just delete the app, don't worry, you don't have to delete it permanently. Just delete it off your phone for a little bit. Try it. You don't have to delete your account. Now, what happens here, right? How do these companies make money off you when you're the product? They sell ads, as we saw. They run complex machine learning models to understand your behavior and try to understand how you might spend money. And when you log into the app, they track every single thing you do. How long you scroll, how long you look at particular aspects on that feed, how far down you go before you stop and do something productive. All of that. And as you may know, with certain apps, they actually have built them from the ground up to be addicting and all-consuming. So, okay, delete the app. And then when you need to do things like advertise your talk to friends on Facebook, you go to your desktop and log into facebook.com. And the experience is kind of crappy still, but if you want and you really need to, you can log into the app again, download it on your phone, right? Even giving them a little gap in that data set is kind of interesting, I think. Second thing you can do, think about little small things you can do to raise the price. Raise your own price, right? This isn't terms of service. This is just a simple question. Would you like to complete a survey? It'll only take 10 to 15 minutes. No, not bad. Let me just ask, what's your hourly rate? What's your hourly rate, and how much are you willing to give up of your own time to help this company? And I don't mean that as a sort of gotcha or like hypothetical. I mean, do you appreciate what this company does and want to help them and are willing to contribute your labor to help them do it? Or is it AT&T? All right, maybe Spectrum. So if you want to do this, do it. But do it knowing that you're doing it to help someone that you care about or a company that you want to succeed. And if not, it's a no for me, dog. It's a no for me. And here's the thing. I'm a product person. I think I mentioned that. What they're really asking you isn't how can we make the product better. What they're asking you is how much worse can we let it get before you'll finally leave? Again, do you want to spend your own time helping them with that problem? That has to be up to you based on your values and the companies you want to do business with. Another super simple thing, this is, most of you are probably already doing this one, just deny all cookies. They're there to help you buy other things that you probably don't need. And if you do need them, like, honestly, is it that hard to find what you need these days? I don't know. I'm skeptical that the whole notion that I need everything personalized to me is really all that compelling of a life experience or user experience for any product. But you can make your own decisions about this. One other thing, and I'm going to open up a topic that is a whole separate, several talks, is about artificial intelligence. Now, this is about opting out. So not too long ago, LinkedIn changed their policy about how they treat comments and posts on LinkedIn. And if you're a wannabe LinkedIn thought leader like me, and it's your social media drug of choice, I do have that app installed on my phone, by the way. Well, okay. They changed their policy to create a little toggle switch here, and you can see kind of this little toggle. They put that 3 levels deep in the settings of their LinkedIn personal profile settings and defaulted it to on.
Of course they do.
And then, a few days later, they updated their terms of service policy to let everyone know that they did that. And some clever people discovered it, and it kind of got shared on LinkedIn and went viral. And what this really means is, when this was toggled on by default, they basically converted you all to anyone who's using LinkedIn and didn't see this, anybody, to say, we get to gobble up anything you wrote or commented on and use it to train our AI models. Now, again, so what? If that matters to you, maybe you might want to opt out. For me, it matters because I'm a wannabe thought leader on LinkedIn, so I try to post some things that are insightful, and I don't want other people being able to monetize those ideas without fair exchange, right? Not buyer, seller, let's exchange value here, right? And so here's the thing I'll say with Act 2, and I'm going to have to then wind it down. Fight fire with fire. Make a marketplace for ethical flamethrowers. Now, this is pretty self-evident, I think, what this means. Okay. Tom Long is the CEO, founder of Oak. Basically, he gave this quote, and he really inspired me, and it's why I work with him at his company. He said, the only way for individuals to keep up with this sort of machine learning, automation, this corporate decision making is to fight fire with fire. And this is why understanding what AI is and what it does and how it's going to impact society, whether you care or not, is really important for you and for our children and all of that. I work with a lot of AI founders who are trying to do things the right way, and what they found is nobody cares. Nobody cares how AI is used, whether it's ethical or not, how things are trained, whose IP is being consumed for free, and then, we all get to use it to do whatever we want, like make some of the images I'm about to show. Right? And Mullen you're like, hey, the genie's out of the bottle. Like, you got to get programmed. And I hear a lot of my AI advocate friends saying that, and then I have my friends in the creative community who are saying all AI is evil and we need to stop it at all costs. And look, like, that is not going to happen. Like, there's trillions and trillions of dollars being invested worldwide in AI. It's going to be a thing, whether we like it or not. Like, that's not even a question. Like, ask me a question about it if you want. But what we can do is we can choose the futures that we have with AI if we start understanding that better and start getting our heads around how different people's works are used, how the environment is impacted by these things. And I'm not an anti-AI person, but I think it's about that fair exchange of value. And so I've been working with Oak to just try to shine a light on transgressive Act 3. And here's where I contradict my entire talk and give you a product pitch. So we made Vibe Check Search last year. Vibe Check Search kind of addresses this problem of terms of service. It lets you plug in a document. It will look for keywords that it might notice that you might want to be aware of. It'll highlight those to you, and you can give a thumbs up or thumbs down based on how you feel about those topics, and over time it will learn what your values are and be able to tell you a little bit more each time you feed a document into it about what key terms you want to find. We applied that to Project 2025, the document that the Republicans put out before the election, so people could find out what was in it. It was 900 pages long. And so that's up there too if you want to check that out. And you can, again, I'm not telling you what to think here. I just want you to be aware that your choices matter in this world. And until they don't matter anymore, you should keep trying to find out what they really mean and the impact they have. So I'm going to close with this. This complexity inhibits your autonomy. That passivity compromises your values. And without values, you're just a commodity in the economy to have value extracted from you. And that sucks. So, what if you could just align 1% more of your decisions with your values? Like, and what if everybody else did that too? Would we see more of our values in the world we live in? That's what I got for you, and I'm over time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, John. I have the first question for you, because we were kind enough to let you talk about your company. Who are your competitors?
That's a great question. We had a few that were like, what was it called? There's a couple like boycotting websites where you can find something and they give you a competitive offer. But I told you earlier in the talk, nobody cares about this, so like the current instance of the product is something that we're going to have to work on, and we're doing that. So now we're starting to aim at more like the Patreon, Substack. We're not aiming to compete with them, but aiming to kind of latch onto that notion of how do you support things that you care about by interacting with some of those groups. And those kind of communities that's really direct to monetizing directly your supporters, your most engaged people. So.
Questions? All right.
Well, why not just switch to Linux? Because there's no boiler.
No Linux.
I don't have a great argument. If you want to, I think we all realize there are reasons we have to do these things, but it's gotten so far beyond what any of us can realistically manage that we all need to evolve, or we're not. The system we have doesn't work if our choices don't actually align with what we believe. And that, I think, is just becoming more and more the case as things get more and more abstracted away. Plus, Linux is kind of hard for me. It's a lot, but I've dabbled in it. The problem is I use it for like a couple of weeks, and then I forget everything I learned, like all the command line stuff. It's just really hard. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah.
Look.
Hi. So you've said a few times that nobody cares about ethics in AI or nobody cares about ethics in technology or whatever, but you wouldn't make this product if you didn't think that people cared on some level. What are some of the things that the vibe check looks for, or what are some of the demographics you expect to serve with it?
Right. So that's a beautiful question. I have a little bit of a dry sense of humor, and I kind of make some bombastic statements. So I wouldn't say that nobody cares, but I would say there's the subset of people that care is very narrow. It's like 20% of the population seems really engaged with people that are either gung-ho on the technology side or money-making side, or extremists on the ethics side, and all of this stuff is just crypto 2.0 kind of stuff. And I think that does a disservice to the overall discussion about the reality that is impacting everybody, no matter what. And I guess that's what I really want to encourage, is that I'm not a purist. I used Claude, GPT. I used, this is kind of a demo of the new GPT image generator that launched. And am I not happy that it's based on other people's copyrighted work? No, but I firmly believe you can't run a startup business today without using those tools. You won't succeed. So what we're doing is we're partnering with some activists, social media influencer types who are in the social impact space, and trying to build their sort of worldview into some of these tools that then they can share. And so it's more kind of like, if you follow Jesus on social media and you want to know what would Jesus do, well, you can look that up on our tool. That's where we're headed, but it's still ultimately, I think it
All
has
right, we've got a lot of questions. I think we're going to do some more.
I'm happy to talk as long as you guys would like. Did I answer your question, though? I don't feel like I got there. Let's talk more.
40%.
So I love the invitation to make more decisions in alignment with your values, but it brings up kind of a dark and depressing question for me. You even described yourself as a thought leader, and really, if there's anything that the internet is now, it's full of algorithms and people that want to lead my thoughts. So
yeah.
How am I even supposed to know what my values are in order to make more decisions that are aligned with them if my thoughts are constantly being led?
That's a really good question, and I think one of the things you can and should do, however it works for you, is write them down, on a sheet of paper, work through them on your own without guidance or help. But of course, like, we all learn from each other, right? That's part of being human, and that's part of like a big ethical debate about these tools, right? All of these AI, generative AI tools are taking our collective works and then finding the gap in the latent space of our collective works and saying this is likely what would be there if you combine all this stuff together. And that's really weird. And some people would say that is true creativity. I'm not sure. I can tell you my position has changed on it more than a few times just in the last couple of years as I really dove into it. But the most important part is that you keep thinking about it, or you will lose the capacity to do so over time.
Go.
My question was back to the very beginning when you pulled up the Disney Plus and how that husband couldn't sue because of his agreement. My question is, if you then were to let those subscriptions expire, or you discontinue and don't agree to go forward with Disney Plus, and then something were to happen later, could you then go back and sue? Is the agreement done at that point in time? Or once you agree one time, are you committed to that agreement forever?
That is a really great question. I don't
I'm
know
going to
the
give a
answer.
caveat. John is not a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the answer. That is the kind of question that I imagine this vibe check product would actually answer for you, is say, oh, hey, you don't like being tied in perpetuity to anything, and this agreement has that clause, so you might want to consider an alternative, which is another feature we'd like to add to that. It's like, what are my options? If I don't want to say yes to this, who offers better terms? And that's, I think, the biggest problem with AI companies right now, is like people don't know there are even are choices to make.
So traditionally, we solve the product problem by buying a product, and we successfully prosecuted the right of repair, but it doesn't solve the EULA problem. If I buy a product, there's all sorts of terms and conditions that I have no negotiating power over typically. This doesn't look like this problem is easily solved. It's not a you are the product problem. Is there any solution?
I don't know, but that's why I set the bar at 1%. I think
To
that
use your example, John, we can't exactly sign up to a different streaming service to watch The Lion King.
no.
We have no choice.
Yeah, and I think that's an important aspect too, which is in our system, Disney owns the IP, and they set the terms of access to it, right? And if you want to watch The Lion King, that maybe is a little bit of entitlement on our part. Like, hey, I have the right to watch The Lion King without agreeing to not sue them. Like, do we really have that right? Maybe we don't, and maybe we need to say, like, my answer is, I'm not going to watch The Lion King, and that's a sad world, but so is that movie.
One more question. It's the last question.
Hello. Thank you so much for the talk, first of all. Second of all, I just wanted to ask, if we are not falling victim to the ads that are peddled to us, how are these apps still taking advantage of us?
That's a good question. If you, maybe I'd say this way. I hope you don't walk away with the idea that like all advertising is bad, or that these people are trying to. Really, the point is, if you're making a conscious decision based on everything you know and understand, that's the place you want to be. If you're seeing that, but here's the thing, right? What you don't know is what's influencing you, right? For example, I was talking to my partner about it. We're going to have breakfast. I'm going to make some French toast. And she left and went to work. And then, I picked up my phone and I was like, okay, I can't remember exactly what I need in here besides I know I need an egg. And I type F. And my phone says French toast. Now, did I ever tell him, like, I want you listening to my conversation and know that I, like, to read my mind and something, like, I guess that's a service that some people might want. But for them, that's just, you know, like, what kind of French toast do you want? Well, of course you want the French toast from the sponsored link recipe, right? And it's just, it feels gross to me. I don't know. Like, I don't want my phone listening to me to predict what I might want. And then it feels like a choice that it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. And ultimately, I don't think you can fully get away from the way technology influences you, because our whole system is built around this, right? How many of you work in technology or a company that sells to a technology firm? Probably most of us. I saw somebody with a Keysight shirt, and I used to be in test and measurement, so at the other guys in town. So it's just to say it's so integrated into our economy that we all participated in it in different ways. We all, and so it's just about transparency and about consent and about making active choices, because when you put your beliefs and values into those decisions, then the world starts to look like the kind of place you want it to look like.
So, you're saying it's complicated.
It's very complicated.
It is, and thank you so much for the talk.